Hey everybody, I'm your head market analyst here at Trading Capital. It is April 18th and let's dive right into the technical analysis, starting with Bitcoin. We'll be touching on Chainlink and Ethereum in this crypto analysis as well. But jumping into Bitcoin, you can see perfectly here what a beautiful reversal bottoming tail candle, and the price action is looking strong. It's lining up to originally what we thought, that you would hit your minor support, which just so happened to coincide with this pivot high, your breakout bar before you start your up leg, and then this supporting trend line connecting through major pivot zones at the low. And initially what you had here was your bounce. It was a very weak bounce, and then you reverse all of those gains with a weak market. And it looks like you were creating some sort of a bear flag pattern until today you were saved. This bear flag was triggered to the downside, but the markets were saved in the blink of an eye and crypto started reversing up higher. And you're still technically now inside this bear flag pattern. The only downside is that you did not confirm below breaking this flag pattern. So the fact that this rally was saved, it does suggest that there's potentially still some more upside in this bounce. When you look at the volume today, it is bigger than the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles that preceded. So if you go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the volume breakout is larger than the past 5 days, which stands to suggest that there is a larger probability that you take out these two pivot highs on this bounce, and that would perfectly line up with where we think Bitcoin is going to be trading. We have these two yellow trend lines here. The big level that we're watching is most likely a retrace back to the center dotted blue line here of this channel. So this is your bigger channel that you've been chopping sideways in, from a low to a high to another low to a high to somewhat semi-low to another high. You can see you bounce at the top of the trend line with the 200-day moving average, and now you're finding that intermediate minor support. So we do think that Bitcoin ultimately goes lower. The major support level will be down here on the lower range of this channel, so just keep that in mind. But since you flushed pretty close to the channel, you may want to potentially put your orders a little bit lower. We could see some sort of a flush out of this channel that really starts to test these lows across here. So again, the channel I think is now intermediate support, just due to the fact that you have flushed pretty low and you've now seen a bounce. Nonetheless, you will have support at the bottom of the channel. If you break that, then your next major support is right in line with this pivot low, and that's the level that the Bitcoin bulls do not want to see breached. As soon as you breach these pivot lows, there's not much distance between you to falling here and ultimately heading much lower. So a good sell area where to potentially take profits. We are in Bitcoin long right now, we are in Chainlink long, and Ethereum long. So the big three. We're probably going to take profits right along this midpoint of this channel, perhaps depending on how the price action gets into the 50-day moving average. Another important moving average that you can watch is the 100-day moving average, which would be roughly in between the 50 and this 200. So somewhere in here would be the 100-day. I just don't have it on the chart right now, but that would be potentially another level to look to take profits. It's really going to matter how the pattern gets in there. So what type of consolidation is going to occur? Let me just erase that line. So if we look at Bitcoin down here, right now you can see it's had a powerful move off the lows. And now what you really want to see is, before this pattern gets too extended, is some consolidation sideways. This type of consolidation upwards is still pretty bullish, but you really want to see this pattern cool off and make a more of a steady rise versus this robust, powerful bounce to the low. Whenever it's these straight bounces from the low, they can't really be trusted in a bear market because they're so powerful. Some of the most powerful bounces happen in bear market, and when they happen so fast and so vertical, it often gives those gains right back, because nothing healthy, a healthy move should not go up in a straight line. When we look at ETH is very, very beautiful. It's technically driven, this chart. You can see we had our minor support levels, our intermediate support levels, and we clearly hit the minor, had a bounce, sold off, and you triggered this bear flag pattern, but today it was saved. It was not the day where crypto flushes down lower. And now the question is, let me just erase these two arrows as there are directionary arrows. We're still in the camp. It heads much lower to test the major intermediate support zone, which is the low range of this channel. But the question is, how far of a bounce are we going to have? Simply when we look at the, do I have the 100-day on this chart? No, I don't have the 100-day on this chart, but again, it would be roughly in the middle of the 200 and the 50-day moving average. So an area of where to potentially look to take profits, you may get a retrace to back to this pivot low here. This is your candle closed low, and it's also going to coincide with the 100-day moving average. And notice the volume on the daily chart. That is your highest sell volume that you've had in a substantial period since you've had this upcycle and now completing this down cycle. So this red wide range bar is going to be major resistance. It may just coincide, you know, as ETH floats up here with this trend line up here and the middle point of the channel. It really depends on how fast Ethereum rallies to the upside. Intraday, you can see it had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 30-minute candles to the upside. A beautiful bullish consolidation from there to there. And now you've had your break up. This still has a little bit more room to run, in my opinion. Couple areas that we're watching are going to be, once we clear this pivot zone high, let's go back to the daily. Ultimately, again, the 3150, 3160 area is going to be a pretty big level for Ethereum to clear. So you want to see these bull flag consolidations, the stair-stepping pattern upwards. That's very healthy for Ethereum, just like you saw this stair-stepping pattern downwards. That's a clear bear flags triggered. You can't get any clearer than that. And this is a clear textbook bull flag being triggered. And then here you have another mini bull flag. And then here it looks like you're trying to form another mini bull flag. So it's pretty technical crypto. That's why I love trading it. When we look at Chainlink, you can see down here the green lines is where these green dotted lines, we had 2 of our 3 orders filled. So we're pretty happy with our entries. When you factor it in, we're roughly around the 1330 mark. Ultimately, I think the 50-day is going to be big resistance, but same thing with Chainlink and Ethereum. Bitcoin and Ethereum. You're going to run into this red bar low here and this red bar high here. So it's in very close proximity, the resistance levels. You have a very close range, defined range here that I think is going to be very difficult for the price action to get through. You'll have the 50-day moving average as your first resistance point, and then this 100-day moving average is bearing down on the price action, which will likely act as more resistance. So overall, crypto is looking like it's getting the short-term bounce. This bounce play is going to be for roughly, you know, maybe 8 to 16% if we're lucky in certain names. Hopefully we can squeeze 10% out. I always like squeezing those double-digit gains, but it's not. We can't hope. Hope is not going to make us money and not going to turn a profit on the trade. We have to just read what the charts are selling us. If the charts are saying that a bigger move is on the horizon, we'll stay in. But until the charts prove to us otherwise that a potential breakout is occurring, we're going to respect the resistance levels at bay, especially in the market dynamic we've once again seen that crypto is drastically tied to how the FANG stocks move and the NASDAQ moves. And this shouldn't be a surprise. I don't think the decoupling will occur for a few years. It's going to take some time for Bitcoin and Ethereum to evolve. And once that institutional money finally comes into play with more regulation, that's when I think the decoupling can occur and it can become more of an asset class that people flee to when there's a potential risk in the market. But when risk is off, people flee to crypto. When risk is on, then they tend to sell their crypto.